there, friends. This is Teacher Yavanna. Welcome to my yard. I'm sitting underneath one of my big fig trees in my backyard, and I thought today would be a great opportunity to get back to our story, Add a Twist Scientist, that we never got a chance to finish back in the deer classroom before break. So today I'm going to read Add a Twist, and I'm also going to teach you all how to make your very own science journal, either out of paper or a paper bag, whatever paper you can find. All right, so Add a Twist Scientist by Andrea Beatty and David Roberts illustrating. Okay. Here's our title page, Add a Twist Scientist. Ada Marie said not a word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day chasing each sound in sight and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak as Ada grew bigger and still did not speak. Clearly young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the rock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, "Why?" Why does it tick and why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose, and why are there hairs up inside of your nose? Oh, she started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of their curious child, who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Look at all of those fun question words that she has there up above her. Why, when, how, what. She asks lots of questions. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this much was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when a horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie," said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell? And how does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start, where she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both the stinky and good. One hypothesis Anna thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. Then zowie, the stink stunk again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. The cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne, so Addis tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" Oh my. Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now by the time we count 3. Enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said, no. What? Ada queried. Her father said, go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think. She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada Twist didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall, and Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? And Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked 2. And each of those led her to 3 questions more, and some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Oh my, look at all of that thinking that Ada did. All over the walls. Her parents calmed down and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair was now the great thinking hall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and whispered, we'll figure it out. And that's what they did, because that's what you do when your kid has a passion and a heart that is true. They remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asks lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. And as for that smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question, and someday, who knows? And that, my friends, is the end of the story. Thank you all for reading this with me, and now I will show you how to make your own science journal. Now, if you happen to have some white paper at home, you can get a few pieces, like 3 or 4, and then what I do is I fold it in half, and if you have a stapler, you can staple it, or have a grown-up help you staple it so that it works as a book. If you don't have a stapler, you can use tape maybe to help you keep it stuck. I also like to do this thing where I take it and I fold it to make it like stick down like this so that it stays together a little bit while you're writing. And then you're going to take a Sharpie or a pen or a crayon or whatever you have at home to write with. You again might need a grown-up to help you, but we're going to write the word science on top. You guys remember what science starts with? It makes a S sound. Nice big S C I E N C And then put your name on it so we know it's yours. I'm going to put my name on it. Teacher Yavanna. And then you can draw a pretty picture here or something you observe. And in your book, what I want you to do is, if you don't have a yard, that's okay. You can look out the window and see what you see in your neighborhood. But if you do have a yard or a nice green space you can go to, just come out, get a little fresh air, look at something around you and see if you can write notes. In science, it can be done anywhere. It can be done in your yard. It can be done in your house. Maybe you notice a funny smell. You can draw a picture about the funny smell. You can try to write some words and get a grown-up to help you with some words. And if you watch it over time, you can come up with your own hypothesis. Or, that scientific questioning that we do. It's like, I wonder why this does it. I think it might be because of this. Did we ever find out what was making that smell? Ada didn't really find out, but she never stopped questioning. You can do the same. Now, if you don't have paper, I made another journal, and I did it by taking a regular shopping bag, a brown paper shopping bag, and what I did is I cut the bottom off. I'm not going to use it. And then I opened it up and I cut the side so that I had a big piece of brown paper. And then with that big piece of brown paper, which looks like this, I folded it in half. And then I folded that half in half here. And then again, you can get a grown-up to help you cut along the top here. And then you would have a book with pages. And you can again write science on the top and your name. And it works just as good as the white paper one. I look forward to seeing you guys again in our Zoom meeting. And maybe I'll get to see some of your science observations. Have a good morning and a good rest of your day. And I will see you guys later this week.